The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kevin and Sandra coming at you, and with another weekly or monthly webinar. This month, we're going to be talking about the dark truth about identity theft. A lot of stuff in the news lately about all kinds of stuff going on in the past 2 months. What do we have, Sandra? I mean, was that WannaCry, Petya? I mean, you name it.
We just had a big botnet thing happen over in Europe. A lot of passwords not passwords, a lot of email addresses were used to spam out. And we were caught in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a truckload of stuff that's going on, and what do you do? How do you defend yourself against this type of stuff? There's just so many things out there, and it's coming from all sides. So what we're going to talk about today is just a little bit about identity theft. Some people have ideas about what identity theft is, and what we're going to do is just go through a little bit of news of the weird, though. And I would like to start off a couple of these webinars with just some of this information. Some of it is, you almost find that it's comical, or even it's so far out there that it couldn't be true, but yet it is.
It is.
Within the past couple of weeks, go ahead, Sandra.
If anybody has any questions, just post them into chat or raise your hand. I can unmute you. So just wanted to say that before you begin.
Nope, definitely.
Sorry, Kev.
So this is the first one that I found, viruses embedded in pictures. I talked about this in the past, but this just came out on August 25th from SonicWall. And basically what it is, if you see this picture down here, it looks like something out of the Ring movie. But
it's from Arrival.
Oh, okay, Arrival.
The movie Arrival, yeah.
See, I haven't seen it yet. You told me to go see that movie.
It's a really good movie, yes.
I have to put it up on my Netflix queue. But what it is if you look at this picture, it just looks like a picture, whatever it is, whatever website you go to. It could be embedded in a Facebook post, whatever it is. But when you get down into the nitty gritty, if I scroll down here, you'll see within the code of the picture, you'll see that there's different things that are embedded in the picture. You can see this sync.exe in blue. Right below that, there's readme.png. Let me zoom in on this so people can see. And this readme.html. So basically, when you're viewing this picture, it's going to unpack these files onto your computer and basically infect your computer. You can see that the files are unpacked and then saved in the following location, and you can see that this is detected as a Trojan. And a Trojan is something that comes in as one thing but is really something else. So simply just viewing a picture is really bad. I mean, you could see this thing would have come up eventually saying that your files were encrypted. So when I say that just going out there, just surfing the internet is scary enough as it is, that guy could never get infected. Just simply looking at a Facebook post with a picture of this thing in there, who knows, what could happen? Somebody reposts it, or, you never know what's going to happen. So just, trying to find out how you're going to get hacked in the future is ridiculous. Another one that I found that it almost sounds too stupid to be true, but it is. Let me bring this up here. So this is, if you see this title here, Fish Tank creates gateway for security breach. Now, I know I joked last time in the cybersecurity seminar that eventually, jokingly, that Parallel Edge would be called to get a virus off a refrigerator because they're having all these smart devices that are out there, and I don't know how to get a virus off a refrigerator. Again, that was a joke. This isn't a joke. So apparently somewhere somebody created a smart fish tank, a web-enabled fish tank. Now, it doesn't go into the article of what you can do with this fish tank. That's really not the point of the article, but I have to wonder what exactly you're going to do with a smart fish tank. Like, are you analyzing like the filter? Or are you do the water control? Or the bubbles coming up out of the
your
treasure
fish?
chest? You're like, what is it? But somebody found a flaw in this smart fish tank, embedded code into the fish tank, and then was able to jump off of the web-enabled fish tank into the interior network and infected, devices on the interior network just using a fish tank. So, it's
crazy.
How do you defend against a fish tank? And I keep talking about, I have in the slideshow here, these things about these fingerprint locks. I saw this the other day on on Facebook. My daughter wants one, of course, because she has a locker, and it's this fingerprint lock. Now, these aren't the pictures of the fingerprint lock that I saw on Facebook, but it is something like this, where you would basically have a padlock that has a fingerprint reader on there, and that's all you need. You just need to put your thumbprint on there. You don't need to go 25, 38, 62 hike, whatever it is, to get the padlock open. It's just your thumbprint, and it opens it up. But here's the catch. You can also open it using your phone. So now it's Wi-Fi enabled. So now we have locks that are out there, and I can even find front door locks that are the same thing, where it's like web enabled, so you can open and lock your. It's the greatest thing. You could be driving away from your house and be like, "Did I lock the house?" And then hit this button on this web enabled app, and then all of a sudden your house is locked up. Well, guess what they can do? If they can hack a fish tank, who knows what they're going to be able to do on a fingerprint lock for your front door. And the biggest problem with these, has to be, and I have also talked about these Nest thermostats that can be hacked. The biggest problem with these is that, Sandra, how many things do we see normally that it's a day one hack? It's a day one, first time that something comes out. I mean, how often we see that in the news? How often?
We see that pretty often. I would say at least every couple of months there's a 0-day virus that comes out. And those are the ones that, you can't protect against.
Exactly. So
There's
now
nothing you can do.
think about a hardware device. So it's easy with Java. Okay, so Java's on your computer. They come out with a new version. There's a day one vulnerability. There's a new software version the next day, and they go ahead and offer you a patch. You update the patch, no big deal. What happens if you have a smart fish tank that has a hole in it? Like not the fish tank hole, the hole in the fish tank, but a hole in the security of the smart fish tank. So I don't think anybody off the shelf is going to, hook up their smart fish tank to a USB cable and hook it up to your computer to download the firmware and all this other stuff. It's too much. And then how do you know the fish tank has a 0-day virus on it or a vulnerability? And I talked about before. And I didn't bring it up before, but here's the smart crockpot I was talking about. Who's going to hook a crockpot up to their PC computer to install the latest and greatest firmware that's out there? Nobody. But yet, if these holes exist in these devices, people drive by and look for these devices that are online and can easily get on them and then infect your internal network. It could be, your internal server if you have a smart fish tank in the office for whatever reason. It could be your home network. It could be that they turn it into an offensive device that starts hacking all the Android phones or the iPhones within listening distance. So those types of things, is where it starts to get really scary. The other thing that you had brought up today, and again, how scary it is getting out there. I mean, this is just what yesterday you showed. You gave this to me today, but it came out yesterday. So the title here is 711 million email addresses exposed from SpamBot server. Sandra, you said we're on that list?
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
Was anybody else?
A couple of our email addresses were on that list. Well, I only searched on our domain and my personal domain, and both were on there.
Okay. So we're going to have to change some of our passwords today, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Reading the article, I don't think passwords were hacked. I think the email addresses were used to send out spam somehow. That's what I gleaned from the article.
Okay.
Not sure how they did it. I didn't really dig very deeply. I just saw that they came out today, or I saw it today. So. Well,
it does. Yeah. I mean, indeed, the spam. I guess if this spam bot is on your computer, it does take your SMTP credentials, so that we would need to watch out for that. And the scary part about this, and this is what we're going to talk about in a little bit, but the scary part about it is that people hop with their passwords from one place to another. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but that's the scary part about this. So if you scroll down here, it says the list also contains many email addresses which have been scraped and collected from other data breaches such as LinkedIn, MySpace, and Dropbox. So, they'll hop from one place to another trying to find, holes in different areas. But getting back into here, we have one last thing, and I don't know if I've touched on this in the past, but this is becoming more and more prevalent. The difference between phishing and spear phishing, and I know these terms sound really odd, but phishing is basically you're trying. If you think about a guy in the middle of a pond with a fishing rod, and the pond is huge, and you just cast your line out. You don't care what comes onto the line. You have one fishing pole. You're casting into a huge pond. You might get a couple fish here and there. So that's phishing. Okay, so if you think about the fishing rod in this case, is a spam bot or an email that they may send out there. So they're sending this email out, across the internet, across the ether, and what they're trying to do is get somebody on the line, is get a fish on the line, get somebody on the line to commit to this email. So they click on that email that says, oh, your password's been compromised. Click here, and it looks legit. It's a Comcast password. They click on it, change their password within the website that comes up, which is not legit, and now they have your password. That's phishing. Okay, it's 1 to a quadrillion amount of people, and they're going to see what they can get back. Spear phishing is making the pond about 2 by 2. And the fish are in that small area. Think about fish in a bathtub. So what they're doing here is they're targeting a company. So they're getting information from, let's say, LinkedIn. And so they're going on LinkedIn, they're finding out who the controller is and who the accountant is and who's the CEO and who's the CIO and who's doing this. So now they have targeted attacks through specific people. And they're they're gleaning information from all over the place, their Facebook site, their LinkedIn site, their web page. They might call them up on the phone. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So they might call them up on the phone to glean a little bit more information. Oh, is Bob Phillyfoo, is he in today? Oh, no, he's on vacation. So now you have a little bit more information. So when you write the controller, You're like, oh, Bob Phillyfoo, I know I'm on vacation, and it adds that much more legitimacy to that email itself, or that spam, email they might be sending out. So spear phishing is a targeted attack.
They're after social security numbers, any HR information that you might have, or trying to get you to move money from one account into their account. I saw that at a client not that long ago where somebody was spear phishing, pretending to be the CEO who was on vacation. An email was sent to their accounting person saying, can you please, I know I'm on vacation, but I need this money moved to this account. Can you please, then I forget exactly what the directions were, but they almost fell for it because it looked very legit. So they're getting really good at that, and they're very sophisticated when it comes to the spear phishing. So watch out for that.
So it is getting pretty ugly out there. It is getting pretty ugly out there, and like I said, I find these articles interesting, if not scary. But I think I'm going to start off each webinar at least this way, just because some of them are funny but true, some of them are just scary, some of them is just informational. So, but along these lines, we're talking today about what identity theft is, and as always, I just want to grab what the actual definition is off the internet. It's what identity theft is the fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private identifying information, usually for financial gain. So they're gaining, it's usually put down in an abbreviation PII, for financial gain. So they're trying to glean, credit card information. They're trying to glean passwords, banking account information, who knows what, just basically for financial gain. So that's basically what identity theft is. So, and when we talk about identity theft today, it could be, just gathering information from all different areas in order to gain money. So it could be that they're taking down your network, or they could be using your password to jump into a money market account. Who knows, whatever it is. But it's all basically with the end goal of getting money. And it's usually gained through breaches, phishing, spear phishing, emails, malware, so on and so forth. And that's how they're basically getting on your computer. So it's a little bit more scary today in that when they infect your computer, when they get access to your email, when they password hop from one place to another, they're trying to gain as much information as they can, maybe use it in a spear phishing attempt to eventually hold you accountable, hold you hostage to their what they're trying to do, so that they can gain more money. And it can provide information for more than just passwords. So it could be credit card data, social security numbers, so on and so forth, date of birth. So you know what they can do with that type of information. So all we're talking about where this information is coming from. So a lot of times what they're doing is, and that list that I just talked about a little bit ago, like where does that list go out there? Who can buy it? It's not like they're going to put this list on eBay or Amazon. Where is this place? So we'll talk today a little bit more about the dark web. So what is the dark web? What isn't the dark web? Well, it's easier to say what the dark web isn't. So the dark web, you can't see the dark web. If you just hop on Internet Explorer, if you search for dark web, you might find a couple of informational resources, but that's not truly what the dark web is. And people sometimes think, oh yeah, I'm doing this is in the dark web. So if you think about Napster from early 2000s, or like Pirate Bay now, that was not the dark web. Okay, so Napster was like a program they put on your computer. You're trying to get, a Beatles album or something like that. I have to say I got like a song off of that and then felt bad the next day and then got it off iTunes. I'm a Jedi when it comes to that stuff, a Boy Scout. I can't do that. Or like Pirate Bay of today. Like Pirate Bay, if you go on Pirate Bay, which I think there was something recent, it was on that same website you gave me, the Hacker News, Sandra. They had to pay $477,000, I want to say, in restitution for song files that were downloaded from them. So basically, it's like the Napster of today, and they have on there like games, music, videos, whatever it is. And you need.
How did they get away with that? Why did they not get arrested for running a website like that?
And I'll talk about this when we get into the ID agent slides, but it's like whack-a-mole.
Okay.
Okay. If you play that game at the seashore, my kids love it. Pirate Bay is a site that's out there, and once they crack down, and I think they took Pirate Bay down, I want to say for at least 2 or 3 months, but then it pops up on another server, and then they whack that one down, and it pops up on another server. So it keeps moving around, and it's tough to take down. And they're usually in countries where trying to get through the process to get their internal agencies to shut down their internal servers, and then they'll just pop up a new country. And the other part of Pirate Bay that's interesting, and I'm not going to show you because there's some nasty stuff on the website, and I don't want to be a part of that. But you need a thing called a torrent browser. So I don't know if it's torrent program. So basically what it is let's say Sandra and let's say I have a video. And I go on to Pirate Bay and I post this on Pirate Bay and I say, hi, I got this video that's out there and here's the link for it. Sandra comes on to Pirate Bay, she clicks on it, it downloads from my computer onto her computer. So let's say Colleen Panella wants that video now, and she goes to Pirate Bay and she clicks on it. Well, then that video downloads from my computer and Sandra's computer, so Colleen will get that twice as fast. And then let's say Jerry wants that. Now it's 3 people. So if you think about downloading a video, now you're not downloading it from a single server like in Switzerland. You're downloading that video from, Klaus in Germany and Bob in England and me from here and all over the place. So it's really tough, again, like that whack-a-mole idea, it's really tough to nail down these places. But getting back to the original point, that's not the dark web. What is the dark web? The dark web is a part of the World Wide Web. It's like, if you think about layers here. So Amazon, Netflix, all the stuff that's happy and everything where the sun's shining and rainbows are up here. And that's all up here. And then you dig down below the surface to where you can't see. And that's where the dark web is. It's a part of the World Wide Web, but you need special software, special browsers, special things in order to access that. I think the only person on, actually there's 2 people on staff that I know have played in there, Ken and Phil. And we don't want to have anything to do with what they talk about when they're in there. But it's an area that I don't even want to touch because I know that if you're not doing it the right way and you don't hide yourself there, they're basically looking at you just as much as you're looking at them. And I don't even want to deal with that.
I don't even want to Google it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel about it. Right.
Exactly. And the way to do it, you would have to do it so that you're anonymous and untraceable. So that, whatever you're doing, in that area, you don't want to be traced back to you. So basically what it is if you think about those James Bond movies and stuff like that, the black market, oh, I bought it on the black market. I bought jewels. I bought, furs on the black market. Well, the black market is that shady area that, Sandra and I and everybody, they don't want to go into, but you're getting stuff on the cheap, or you're getting stuff, that's criminally, purchased, or even stolen goods and stuff like that. So basically that's what the dark web is. It's the equivalent of the black market. So what can you get on the dark web besides being arrested? Sandra provided me this the other day, and I thought it was quite interesting. So this is some of the things in an article that we found that you can buy on the dark web. So if you think about things that once they gain access to your account, what are they going to do with that? If they have your Uber account, what are they going to do? Hail a couple of cars? What they're going to do is resell that for as much money as they can. So you can see like a Yahoo account, just one account is like, maybe they can sell it at a minimum of 70 cents, $1.20 at the maximum. Well, that doesn't sound all that bad, but if you think about what was it, not too long ago, I would say December of 2016, there were like 70 million accounts hacked at Yahoo. So if you think about selling each one of those accounts for $1.20,
you're making good money.
I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at that eBay and the PayPal accounts, well, the PayPal account is expensive, but if somebody gains access to your PayPal account, it's a pretty big deal. I could see them charging $80 for it. Account. Right.
So, you can see that the prices. Now, I don't want anybody here going, oh, yeah, I can make a bundle. I'm going to close up shop and go on. Don't do it, because this is bad stuff. But, it's just to understand exactly what's out there and what they're doing with this. Like, why would anybody want to do this? Well, again, it's financial gain. And this is what I was kind of talking about before. All right, you gain access to an Uber account. All right, well, why is that so bad? Yeah, they can resell the one account. But the scary part about this, and I didn't really think about this until I started talking with ID Agent, and I'll get into who they are in a second, but watching their webinar, they talked about something. They didn't name it this, but I call it this, the password hop. So let's say my password is password 1. It's not my password, so don't try it.
I hope it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's say, for instance, my password is password 1. If the password hop works like this, more than likely, I don't have a brain that's big enough that's going to try to get all these passwords. Let's say, more and more people are saying today, oh, I got all these passwords and it's so terrible. It's so da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. So what they'll do is they'll take the variations on a theme and they'll hop to, all right, I need a capital for this time. So they log into Verizon and they're like, oh, it requires a capital letter. Oh, all right, capital P, password 1. All right, how about this one? They need a symbol. All right, capital P @ symbol SSWRD1. All right, they need 2 symbols.
By the way, anybody listening out there, if this is your password, if you're using some variation of this, change it. It's the most hacked password in the world. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I remember during my seminar, I usually ask anybody in the audience if they have any password that's on the screen, and I put like 10 or 15 up there. I'm like, call me. Because like it's password 3, it's like Clarity, it's all the regular ones that are out there. So yeah, if it's password, please call me after this. But this is what people will do, and then they have to. Then let me put 2 symbols in there. So what they'll do is if they gain access to your Dropbox password or your Uber password or whatever, or if they do a brute force attack and maybe they've opened up Verizon, and you think to yourself, oh, well, what are they going to do with my Verizon account? They're just going to look at a bunch of emails that I have in my Verizon account. Well, most people use that password on more than one place. So they'll hop from one place to another with these things called a brute force attack. So they'll take that password and then attack multiple websites with variations of that very same password. Now they'll have access, instead of one place, they'll have access to 10 places because you've used that same password with variations on multiple websites. So that's when it starts to get a little scary. If your banking password is P @ symbol SSWRD1, ! And your Verizon password was just password 1, guess what? They're going to hop from one place to another and be able to get to, Chase Bank or whatever it is.
And they have software to run that password through the mill, to run that through and get all the different variations of that password. So.
Yeah, sophisticated software programs that I don't know how to program, but they'll just attack one right after another until they find something. So getting down to the crux of who the ID agent is. So, there are, they comb the dark web. They go into the areas of the dark web that I don't like to step in. So dark web ID, it combines human and sophisticated dark web intelligence with search capabilities to identify, analyze, and proactively monitor for your organization's compromised or stolen employee and customer data. Layman's terms, they go into the dark web. They look in areas that are the Amazon of the dark web or the eBay of the dark web. And they look for domains that are out there, maybe from a hack or a breach or a botnet or whatever it is. And then they'll identify those and put them in a database. And then if you're subscribed to their service, they'll provide you with a list of the different emails or passwords or whatever it is that they have that's out in the dark web, so that you know that these credentials are stolen and that you need to change these passwords, basically. So that's basically what they do. And it's kind of, it breaches into an area that's kind of shady. And we'll talk later about what our personal thoughts are on this, but it is definitely a scary subject. So they provided a bunch of statistics here, so between 2016 and 2017, they state that 80% of the hacking-related breaches leveraged either stolen password or weak or guessable passwords. So most of the hacks that happened in 2016 or 17, it was either because of a breached password or they guessed it, or a weak password. So if you have password 1, for instance. So they're saying most of the different hacks that are out there were because of that. 4.2 billion email account credentials identified for sale online. So they are going into the dark web and they're going and looking in these Amazon type places. And they're saying in 2016 to 17, there were 4.2 billion email account credentials that are just sitting out there waiting to be bought for whatever reason. 85 million have stolen PII records. So that could be your medical information, that could be social information, your date of birth, who knows what, but anything that's personally identifiable. So that's some scary stuff, scary statistics. And then the global cost of all of those breaches will eventually reach about 2.1 trillion, they're estimating, by 2019. So, what we're doing yesterday and what we're having to do tomorrow, they're going to be two totally different things. So I know people, when it comes to changing a password or having a variety of passwords, or, even, and I'll get into way later on in the seminar, but two-factor authentication, things like that, things that are a little bit more of a pain than normal. It is a more of a pain, but it's going to keep you much more secure. So, we're trying to make sure that you're not on the 2.1 trillion end of things. Some more statistics. 73% of the U.S. population have at least one compromised credential found on the dark web. That's about 237 million.
I'm one of them.
People.
Mm-hmm.
What? You're one of them. What? Oh,
one of my passwords showed up on that list.
Right.
My Facebook account was hacked probably about 2 years ago now, or maybe it was last year, but it showed up on that search that we did with ID Agent.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, one thing to bring up about that list too, because that did come up on there, and I know we've spoken to somebody else about this where, all right, well, your Facebook password was on there. What good is that to you now? Why does that mean anything? Well, the problem is that email was probably, or that password, when your Facebook account was hacked originally, was put out on the dark web for sale. So what ID Agent could possibly do at that point is identify that password, alert you that password is out there for sale, and then you could change it before it's sold. So that's one of the things to bring up. I'll show you in a little bit some identified.
Right, because I've, as you said, Kevin, I've used variations of that password in a lot of different places. That was my go-to password.
Yep. So it's one thing to keep in mind when we go through some of these lists. 18% of U.S. population, possibly with a compromised social security number, found on the dark web. That's scary stuff. And where do these things come from? Like, who's doing the hacking? I've been asked that one a lot. How come the government just doesn't go and shut these places down? Well, it could be, a variety of different places, anywhere from nation states, organized crime, hacktivists, malicious insiders, motivated individuals. It's some scary stuff, and I'll zap out of this right now and go back to this website page, because this is another thing that I saw, Sandra. I went to page 2 of that same site that showed me where that one article was
Oh,
a little while ago.
yeah.
And these are titles of some more articles that are on that same site. And even the titles are scary. So, you talk about where these places come from. So here, easy to use apps allow anyone to create ransomware within seconds. May not be an informational article. FBI arrests a hacker. Yeah. Beware of this spreading through the internet. But if you scroll down, learn ethical hacking online, A to Z training course.
Oh.
So ethical hacking, I talked about this before. What's the difference between ethical and unethical? What's the difference between white hat and black hat hackers? It's a very thin line because what black hat hackers are trying to do is hack you for financial gain. What white hat hackers are trying to do is to block you from the black hat hackers. But the tools are pretty similar. I know when Phil was trying to learn more about the dark web and try to understand how to do penetration testing, the tools are really, really, really similar. So if you're putting this type of stuff out there that anybody could, and here's the Pirate Bay article, by the way. You put these tools out there that anybody can use, it's a very thin line. It's a very thin line. So it's interesting. Let me go back here.
So ID Agent would be considered an ethical hacker.
Correct.
Would that be right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There's a fine line there, isn't there?
Very.
Well, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
So, in talking about the money trail, like how does it get from point A to point B? And is this 100%? It's basically just giving you an example of how money gets from point A to point B. So there's a botnet on your machine. You get a message on your computer. They tell you they need money. So basically what has happened is they're trying to get money out of you, but you can't just go to the local, Visa place and charge it on your Visa card because that's traceable. What they use is something called Bitcoin. Sandra, how tough is it to get Bitcoin?
Oh my God, it is so difficult to get Bitcoin. It's not an easy process. You have to go to the bank. You have to show up in person. You have to buy it from somebody who might be kind of shady. One of our clients went through the process and felt a little bit dirty afterwards, he said. So.
Yeah, you can't just go to ShopRite and pick up a Bitcoin card at your local.
No, you can't.
And basically what Bitcoin is, it's almost like an online currency that's untraceable. And there's actually a fluctuating rate. If you think about you want to change your dollars into pounds or something like that, it's the same thing. Like the dollar will raise and lower according to different rates. So a dollar in Bitcoin today is different than it is tomorrow. So you have to go with the going rate of what Bitcoin is. So you could be owing 500 Bitcoin, and that could be a couple $1,000s one day. So you have to go, you buy this Bitcoin, then you have to transfer the Bitcoin, then they have to, figure out, is the Bitcoin actually in this bank account? And then they draw out the funds, and it's like this huge, huge thing. All in an effort so that it's untraceable. But credentials are the most coveted prize. They're basically what they're trying to sell on the internet. And hackers want to use that against you, because then what happens is once they get those credentials, they're going to use that against you, whether in a crypto type attack. You never know what it's going to be. And this is another scary part about what's going on in the dark web. They almost have Amazon-style markets that are out there. So, for instance, you buy something on eBay, and you go on eBay, you look for the latest, Lego character, Lego pack, and you're going to buy from this guy, Bob in Saskatchewan. How do I know Bob in Saskatchewan is actually going to send me the Lego once I send it, and is going to send it in a timely manner? The only thing that I have going against that is reviews. So maybe 5 or 6 people have bought off of Bob in Saskatchewan, and I click on his review status, and he has 5 different reviews that are all 1 star in the past month. I'm probably not going to buy from this guy because his reviews are not that good. I know I'm not going to get the product, or there's going to be some kind of a hang up where I'm not going to get this Lego for my daughter, or me. So the rating is all you have. But then if you find somebody else, and their rating is much higher, you're more than likely to go and buy stuff off of there. They have the same ratings for markets and hackers, and they're 2 different things. So you have a rating for being a hacker, and you have a rating for being a marketplace for hackers to broadcast what they're trying to sell. So you have in here like a 4-star rating, and you can see here's the marketplace, and it requires a different browser in order to get to that marketplace. You can't just use this HTTP site here on Internet Explorer and expect to go there. Not going to happen. But you can see
what would
here,
happen? I'm just curious. What would happen
you won't be
if
able
you
to get
typed that
there.
in?
It'll just go. It'll say
Okay.
found. You can see it's been around since November 2013. It's uses to traditional escrow systems. So there's ratings for these different places that are out there, so that they know what they can and can't buy. Again, Amazon style reviews. Who knew? Again, this also goes to, well, how come the market doesn't go and squash these types of places? Just like Pirate Bay, they're moving target, and they are being squashed, but then they pop up somewhere else. So this slide might be a little tough to see, but if you can zoom in a little bit, you can see that, Dream Market, which is what this one was, Dream Market, it's up about 96% of the time, but at the time of 7-Eleven, it was offline. So it could be that, maybe the government or maybe our government, who knows, some reason they got shut down, but they'll pop up tomorrow on another server. And you can see the different ratings for some of these places. You get 99% uptime, 89% uptime.
That's crazy. Non-English speaking vendor shops. Look at that. Drugs and porn. Big surprise there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes back to that password hopping. 76% of people use the same or just maybe a tiny variation for most, if not all, websites. So, these are some of the hacked websites that are up recently. Forbes, Adobe was huge. Anthem was recent. Uber was somewhat recent. Yahoo should be on this list, as well as Verizon. So what's so scary is that they'll use that same or a variation on the theme for these other places. So your Adobe password might be kind of similar to your PayPal password, and that's where it gets really scary for you. Also, what does this look like when it's posted to the internet? Like, what does it look like when some records are put out there? So this is like a typical exploit that might be put on the Dream Market site. So if we kind of take this apart a little bit, you can see this is from a Ukrainian site or a Ukrainian hacker. The asking price is in Bitcoin, 0.25 Bitcoin, which is about 636 American. Extraction to sale in 17 minutes. They'll split the commission with anything that's purchased. Look what was purchased. Data set, largely U.S. Army personnel, more than 5,000 records. That's crazy. But let's take it apart a little bit. You can see that 62% of what is in this download of the 5,000 records is mostly emails with .gov or .mil at the end and passwords. So that's the impact to the organization. So let's say it's EDA contractors. Let's say it's special risk insurance. Let's say it's Parallel Edge. That's the impact to the organization. They have my password and can do something against our organization. Maybe they hack our server. Maybe they get some type of an online source. But let's look at the impact to the individual itself. Look at what else is in these records: date of birth and social security number. So it's not only that they're getting information from Parallel Edge, the organization, but maybe somewhere
bank account.
They're getting maybe like an online QuickBooks, or maybe Sandra has stored my social security number, somewhere else in an HR app that's online. Not that she has, but maybe that's the case. And they hack that website through a known good password from someplace else, and they get my personal information from this hack. So now there's an impact that you have to worry about to your employees individually, not only to the organization. So again, scary subjects. What is ID Agent? Again, we talked about what ID Agent is. They're selling their services to us. So what we can do is basically buy the ID Agent platform for us, and then what we do is then use that for you guys to protect you. So we're analyzing all these different lists that come out there. We're analyzing the stuff that's online, and we're going through all of this, and they monitor it 24/7, 365. So we'll get alerts when this stuff is out there. So that's one of the possibilities that they could do. So this is basically what Dark Web ID does. And what they're doing is trying to make it affordable to small and medium-sized businesses. So they're basically saying they're offering these enterprise-type style services to everybody, and they're trying to make it affordable to everybody. So what they're saying is it might be much more expensive, but they're financing that to make it more affordable for the small and medium-sized businesses. And they're saying that the statistics is that, even through 85% of businesses have at least one credential with 1,000 less employees. Most people don't even know they've been hacked. Could be just out there, hanging out there, waiting for somebody to purchase. So that's what ID Agent is. I wanted to show you exactly what types of information that we were able to glean from ID Agent. They were supposed to be here today and give us a little demo. Unfortunately, they were called away to go to a different conference, unfortunately. But I at least wanted to show you kind of the demo that we saw. And we had a couple of clients kind of raise their hand and volunteer their information. I'll show ours first, though. Now, what I did is to protect the innocent. I've kind of hidden some of this information. Like, I changed all of this information just slightly, so I'm not just going to have our passwords out there for everybody to take. So we have all different types of information that's here. This is the information that Sandra was talking about. So her password, was taken. Let's see, what was this? It was found in. When were you hacked? When was the Facebook account hacked?
2016.
Okay, so it was up for at least ID Agent found it at 2017. We only signed up for this demo not too long ago, so who knows when they would have been able to find it. But if you look through this list, there's some open passwords that are like this. There's some that have all this crazy information. And what ID Agent is telling me is that when they glean a password that's from Dropbox, so maybe somebody hacks Dropbox and they'll put it out there like, oh, we have 70 million passwords that are encrypted, and they'll give this out there. And some websites are coming up with the de-encryption that you can purchase. So let's say I'm on the dark web. I just purchased 70 million Dropbox passwords on the dark web, and they're all encrypted. And this other person on the dark web has cracked that password, that encryption password, which is basically like the instructions on how to decrypt those passwords. So maybe I'll buy his service and give him these passwords, or go to that website and put these passwords in and be able to decrypt all those passwords now. That gives me so much more information than I had before, because now they're plain text passwords, like password 1. And now I'll be able to use that information. So basically what they're telling us here is that, yes, this email was out there. You can see that it was breached. It was a breach. It's put on the ID theft forum, or it was from a web page, or it was from a hack, or it was from a social media site, wherever they found this information. And they're able to just say, we have some information. It's out there. It could possibly be used against you. You might want to change your password on a couple different websites. Again, this is what's out there and what's a possibility. So this is the types of lists that we might see that comes in from them. Sandra, who else? Was it Cecil Baker?
It was Cecil Baker.
I'm
checking to see if Mary is with us, but not attentive. But I can unmute Mary, and we can ask her what she found out about the passwords. But yeah, you can show. Joan, we didn't discuss whether we could show the passwords or not, but
okay.
Cecil
Baker said okay, so hopefully Mary will come back in a second.
Yeah.
But basically, again, just to show you another real world example. Again, I've changed some of this information, but it just shows you, here's a scary topic, right here, keylog phished. So that means at one point in time, they had a piece of malware on a computer, and it was either keylogged on their computer, so a program on their computer that's taking the keystrokes and then sending it off site, or it was phished. So that means it could have been, a web page that they went to and put information in, an email that they clicked on and put information in. For whatever reason, they were able to glean that information from a keylogger or a phishing attempt. And I remember Mary had said that some of these passwords, a lot of people still worked there, number one. But number two.
Right. That particular one that you have clicked, she's going to double check that, because we believe that he may have used that password in a different variation on different sites. So I basically told everybody, look, just if you see a password that was at one point used, just make sure the end user has changed that password on any other sites where they may have used some variation of it, which is what I did with mine too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's scary stuff when you see this. It's definitely something to look at once you do get a list like that, because you never know what's going to come up and how they're going to play that password off another one. So it's a neat service. So we went through the real world examples, but what can we do? So now that we have this understanding of what the dark web is, how the passwords are being distributed, what can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is don't use the same password everywhere. And I know it's a pain, because people just want to get through it. It happens with, programs that just like click, next, so they just want the program. Or, they're getting onto a new website and ask you for another password. So I'm just going to put in just something stupid like 80 blah, 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 blah. Just get me the information. And it's a tough thing to do. But if you start being more conscious about where that password is going from point A to point B, variations on a theme don't always protect you. So be more conscious about what the password is and where that password is also being used, even if it's a couple different letters off. Use small phrases. I've started doing this. So what they're saying today is that those brute force attacks will be able to use those variations on a theme. If you were to put something in there that says, I love Parallel Edge with spaces and a period at the end, it's an easy to remember phrase, and it's long enough, and it has a symbol in there, and it has a capital letter. So it's confusing enough that it's not going to be broken very easily. So that's what they're saying now, is that instead of using passwords with complexity and, one uppercase, one lowercase, one this, one that, try to use a small phrase. If they need a number, put a number in there somewhere. Instead of love, make it L0VE. But, use a small phrase instead with spaces, because spaces are another character in your password. Again, tough to hack. Change your password often. I know it's a tough thing to do. And I think one of the things that we're going to agree on at Parallel Edge as a best practice is that you should be changing your passwords every 6 months to a year, even if they're domain passwords, even if they're email passwords, even if they're, passwords that have to do with your QuickBooks. It's making it all the better so that you're staying ahead of the curve. So that way, if something is taken and it gets thrown out on the black market, maybe you've changed your password before somebody purchased that and you're ahead of the game. So possibly changing your password often. Another thing that is being introduced is two-factor authentication. So I got introduced to this when we were dealing with police departments, two-factor authentication. So they would need to go into a patrol car and they need to log onto the computer. So they need something they know and then something on their person. So something they know is a password. So it could be the same password every day, password 123, whatever it is. And then what it'll do is once you've logged in with that password, it'll send something to something on your person. So let's say it's a cell phone. So they'll send a code, maybe a text to your cell phone that has a code on it that you also have to type in. So it would be very tough. Let's say that password, pass123, is distributed on the dark web. they can't use that because they don't have the cell phone in order to get that information, because they need the key code as well. So even if they were able to get into the patrol car's computer, even if they were able to use the password against that patrol car and get into that information, they still need something on the person, a text being sent to a cell phone. So that's going to be becoming more and more prevalent, where it's like maybe a thumbprint, maybe, an eye scan, whatever it is. I know we're starting to get into sci-fi and like the retina scan and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I could just see somebody walking into their computer and being like, "My password, we won't take it. So there's something wrong with my eye. I put contacts in. Can you help me?" But the two-factor authentication, for banks and those really places where you need like an Uber password. That wasn't a plug for Uber. An Uber password to get into these places, two-factor authentication is going to become more and more prevalent. And then the last thing, and I want to open this up a little bit. Yes, it's a pain. It's much more secure, but ID Agent, and it's the first time we've come across this company. We came across them at a conference that we went to. They looked up our domain, kind of opened our eyes a little bit. But one thing we've come across from a company that we deal with that we're starting to understand is that there's these, it's like those lawyers that are out there, the ambulance chasers. There's ambulance chasers when it comes to IT. And they'll hop on something, the latest and greatest craze, to see if they can use scare tactics to dump your current IT provider and hop on with them because they have a piece of information that your company doesn't know. And you should be, how are they not finding this information? They must be stupid. You should come with us because we have this great, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They're using these types
and they're
of
actually an ID agent, and this is where we can have a discussion about this. But ID agents is actually saying that we should be using this tactic to gain new clients, and that is the one thing that we just don't operate like that. We don't do that. We would never run someone's domain without asking them first. But there are IT companies out there doing that, and just the fact that they talk about that, it makes me kind of uncomfortable about maybe the company. I don't know. I mean, we haven't pulled a trigger on anything. We're still discussing whether we want to sign up for this service or not, and whether our clients want to sign up for this service. I guess that's what will probably drive us to sign up. We've had discussions about this for the last 2 weeks, Kevin. And One day we're like, yes, we should do this. This is great. This will protect everybody. And the next day we're like, do we? I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. I guess they're the hackers. They're hacking the hackers, and that's what makes me uncomfortable about it too.
It's the same reason why we called Phil off of doing the penetration testing. It's just it gets into an area that's so grim and dark and scary and that part of the internet that we just don't want to deal with on an everyday basis. Pro con. When we ran some of these reports, I'll be honest. One company, they found a domain password or two. That is the scary part about it. So if you see like a 1 to 10, what's really scary and what's not so scary. So domain password, that means if they were able to get into your network in some way, through VPN, through RDP, through whatever it is, they now have a domain credential to get onto your computer, to get onto your server. The gates are open at that point. And it's even scarier would be if that same password was used on anything also inside that network. So maybe it's on QuickBooks, maybe it's in, InFocus, whatever it is, and they're able to cause all kinds of havoc. The other side of that is we ran a couple companies and they came up either dry, not dry into the point where they didn't find anything. I mean, every time we ran a search, something came up.
They found something.
Dry, it's that those people either didn't work there any longer, or they haven't worked there in a very long time, and there's no new passwords. Pro con, had we had an ID agent at the time that they were there, would they have picked up on that password? I don't have that information. So it's so tough to nail down a company like this as to what they can or can't do. And it's almost like insurance.
Right.
if you buy the insurance and you're paying for it, you kind of sleep better at night. It's flood insurance, it's house fire insurance, whatever it is, even IT insurance. You could pay for it for 2 years, and then at the other end of that, I'll give you a good example, and I know we're running short on time, but a great example, fantastic.
And I have a question too from Joan, by the way. Okay.
But a great.
You want to do that now?
My father-in-law,
okay,
really quick. My father-in-law cuts down trees. He's like one of those guys that climbs the tree with the chainsaw on his belt. He's in northwestern Pennsylvania. He goes up in trees. The wind is blowing. He's going back and forth and is cutting down trees. Okay. He had insurance the entire time he was doing these trees. Then all of a sudden they were running low on finances and they stopped the insurance, but he continued cutting down trees. Now, up until this point, he had 0 accidents. As soon as he canceled the insurance, he dropped a tree on a garage. And there was a brand new F-150 truck inside.
Oh.
So he had to basically drain his 401k in order to pay for the garage and pay for this F-150. So that's the scary part about it. It's either you pay for the insurance, you pay for ID agent, you pay for this service that could possibly pick up on a password, or you run the risk and say, oh, we'll roll the dice. That could never happen to us. So there's the rub. There's the rub. I mean, and again, the jury's out. Sandra and I are probably going to, take more and more phone calls, just the two of us, and still hash this out because we're still on the fence.
And if anybody wants to talk about it, feel free to call me.
Yeah, we're not saying
we can discuss it.
This service. We're not saying no. You're not going to use this. We're against this 100%. If today you called us up and you said, you know what, I'd rather be on the safe side. We want to sign up for this service. We'll sign it up for you right away.
We'd sign up.
Absolutely. We're not going to say no. But, as far as coming out and being like, Parallel Edge definitely says you should be on this service, I can't say that yet.
Right. I have a question from Joan about two-factor authentication. She wants to know if you still recommend changing the password regularly if you have two-factor authentication turned on.
You could change it less regularly, but if you see, it's going to be tough. Maybe I could show you just for an example.
We have 3 minutes.
That's fine. So if it's tough to see here, but this is dark web. So they give me a code, and you can see this little timeline up top that's going away. After that timeline goes away, it switches the code. So it's going to change that code every 30 seconds. So if they have my password, that code changes every 30 seconds, and only I have access to it on my cell phone. Some banks are starting to give you little key fobs for that type of thing, that it's on a key ring and that code changes every 30 seconds. So, Joan, what I could say is that, yes, if two-factor authentication is enabled, it gives you that other thing that keeps you safer. Do you never want to change your password ever again? Would they be able to hack my phone eventually because I have a smart crock pot? Who knows? Not that I have a smart crock pot. But again, it's that insurance thing. It comes back to ID agent. Do you want to play the numbers and be like, oh, that'll never happen? I have a Nest thermostat, but they'll never hack my phone. Who knows? By 2019, the end of 2018, the stuff that's happening now, I didn't think would happen 2 or 3 years ago. It was unfathomable that this stuff would happen. I agree. And yet on a daily basis, we're finding these too stupid to be true, but it is. And that's the point, is that I want everybody to be much more safe. I would rather you change your password yearly, 6 months, whatever it is, and be safer and be able to sleep good at night, knowing that, this type of stuff can't happen to me, or at least I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that anything that I could do to make sure that these hackers can't get in, I'm doing. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Any other questions out there, Sandra? Did we touch on everything?
No, that was the only question we had.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can look at that. 12:59. How do I do that just internally?
You're good. You're so good at that, Kevin.
So, as I say always when we finish up, please join us for next month's webinar. I don't even know what it's on yet, and really we didn't plan this one until later. So I'm interested to see what it's going to be about. We'll let you know via email what it's going to be about. But stay tuned to that newsletter. If you have any suggestions. Yeah, absolutely. We just found out that our OneNote YouTube channel or YouTube video, it's got like 100 different views right now, which is crazy. we didn't think we were that popular, but I'm glad we are. So if you have suggestions, definitely put it in the the audit that comes after
Survey.
the survey. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
Fine.
I have audit on the brain because I'm doing too many lately.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for the newsletter, the website for future webinars. Anything else, Sandra, you want to add before we cut this short?
Nope, that would be it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and hanging in there. And feel free to call me if you have any questions about this. Be happy to discuss them.
Fantastic. Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Take care.